Welcome to Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. It is a special episode today as Nick is actually here in person with me in Englewood, New Jersey, in my humble abode. We have a lot to talk to you guys about this week in regards to our Brooklyn Nets.
Why did it say live for 6 minutes and 38 seconds? Have we been on that long?
We have not been on that long. I think it starts the second that I turn the link on StreamYard.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not sure why you would bring up something that the listeners or the viewers can't see.
Just to make sure our technicalities are all in order.
All right. Anything you want to say to me before we get started? Like, hey, bro, how you been? How's your engagement? How's the new apartment? How's your dog? How's life? Anything? We haven't talked in like months.
Yeah, no, I think
outside of the podcast,
starting the podcast is better for me, honestly.
Anyway,
I like your hat.
Thank you. Again, something the listeners can't see is this nice winter hat I'm wearing, but enough semantics. Let's get into it. The Brooklyn Nets have filed trademarks on what I guess we're all calling the Netaverse, indicating that they will be the first NBA team to officially enter the Metaverse. Nick, what do you think about this news?
Pretty unaffected and unfazed by it. I like wordplay, so Netaverse sounds cool, easy to say, fun to say. Besides that, great.
Maybe I understand the metaverse, the concept of it. I get that.
I've actually danced in the metaverse.
Yeah? Were you a good dancer or a bad dancer?
Was my avatar a good dancer? They kind of just do like the humping and thrusting thing.
So how would a basketball team work in the Netaverse? Is that like...
You can actually sell things. So they can set up some sort of clickable merch, memorabilia. It's basically a place to, you could view art, view music, buy NFTs, anything like that. So you can go around and explore, and then you could just create outbound links to other sites and shop.
Can I FaceTime with all the players whenever I want? Because that sounds like a feature that should be included in the Netaverse.
You can only FaceTime with
Juwan Carter,
Boki Nakbar.
Oh,
that'd be cool.
That'd be awesome. I would sign up for that immediately.
I saw Richard Jefferson today on ESPN, and he was introduced. He was with another woman that was a WNBA All-Star, and they go, I'm with WNBA former All-Star, and I forget her name, and former NBA player Richard Jefferson. And he goes, oh, because I'm not an all-star. And she goes, oh, I'm going to introduce you like that from now on. Never an all-star, Richard Jefferson. And he didn't seem too happy about that. Because there was that year, 2004? He averaged 22 points a game. Or might have been a little closer to 2007.
Well, he was on a Team USA team. People forget that team won bronze.
Yeah.
Speaking of Richard Jefferson, if you guys follow my TikTok, Spen Harris, I think it is, or Spencer Harris, I posted a clip of me working out, getting some shots up with a nice 21 Savage track behind it. I tagged Richard Jefferson on that TikTok, and he basically just commented, okay, I see you.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty dope,
and just to fact check myself, I was right. He did average 22 points a game in 2004, but he also averaged 22 points a game in 2008, the year before he was traded in that Yi Jianlian.
Let's go with that.
Milwaukee Bucks deal.
Good on you, Nick. That was a nice little fact check, and I'm proud that you were right on that. That's why I have you on the podcast. You're a serious asset.
Thank you, man. Check out these assets.
Speaking of assets, James Harden. Up and down season so far for the Nets. Now we have these trade rumors swirling about. Daryl Morey is basically going to hold on to Ben Simmons until the end of the season. He has decided that he's going to try to trade the troubled superstar point guard. And essentially, he leaked that he's probably going to try to trade him to the Nets for James Harden. In recent weeks, James Harden basically was leaked that he's open to relocating this summer. So, we talked about that on last week's podcast. But, I mean, what do you think? I look at this situation, Nick, and I don't see a scenario unless the Brooklyn Nets fall apart, unless Kyrie isn't able to play the whole season next year. He's not able to play home. He's able to play home games. Kevin Durant comes back. He's not healthy for some reason. That's why if you're James Harden, you'd want to leave. But outside of that, if you're Sean Marks, you're not making the move for Ben Simmons, are you?
I would personally make the move for Ben Simmons, yes.
I don't agree with you.
Have you watched the last two games? Our defense is horrendous. Harden, for the stats and the shots he hits, is leading our team in turnovers. Ben Simmons is a lockdown defender. Harden and Kyrie, to me, just have too similar of a game sometimes. It almost feels like they're just passing the ball back and forth and taking turns. Is Harden more naturally skilled than Ben Simmons? Yes. But Ben Simmons fills a lot of roles on this team. He He fills a gap in this team. I believe in second chances. I believe Ben Simmons is still approaching his prime, whereas Harden is probably on the decline. So I'm open to it. Am I cool either way? I don't think. Honestly, I would enjoy it. I don't think either one will be a detriment to the team. I don't think either one will upset me. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I like Ben Simmons.
For starters, James Harden did not come here to play a season and then leave, or a season and a half, because he came here at the midpoint of last season. There's no way this guy who played through a hamstring injury in the playoffs against the Bucks, who for countless games has tried to put this team on his back. This year, he has failed to do that on a consistent basis. He just has. He hasn't been the James Harden as of last year, as of years prior. But I don't think this guy is jumping ship to go play with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia.
I don't know. Embiid's had 30 points.
He's been great, but I don't see it. I don't see it, especially the relationship that he's developed with Kevin Durant again, Kyrie Irving. He seems to like his home in Brooklyn. On the Sean Marks side, I also don't think that Sean Marks is going to try to break up this trio. And if you move James Harden,
the trio has barely had an opportunity.
I know. And if you move James Harden, you don't sign him to a max, and you try to get Ben Simmons, you've seen the bad side of what Ben Simmons has brought to Philadelphia. And do you think really putting him with KD and Kyrie is better than just keeping Harden? So I don't see it from either parties. I think this is all smoke and mirrors. That's what my Nets sources have said. James Harden is not going anywhere this offseason. Okay, that's a bold prediction I'm making. He will be a Brooklyn Net next year. Just watch. Because guess what? If this team goes all the way and they win the championship, there's no way James Harden's jumping ship. And I think that when you're able to get the big three back, I don't think that there's a team in the East still, even with Harden struggles, even with Kyrie Irving playing only away games, I still think the Nets, with healthy Kevin Durant, James Harden, are the best team in the East.
I mean, listen, as long as they don't play like they did last night against the T-Wolves, we're going to be okay as soon as Durant comes back. And where's Joe Harris? God, I feel like he's been gone for 3 months.
Yeah, no, there's
I know they keep coming out with reports like they're not sure on an update. It seemed pretty straightforward when it first happened, and now it's also up in the air. I'm watching the Nets, I almost forget he's on the team.
There's a South Park episode where Butters, Staunch, and I forget who the other Scott Malkison, they visit George R.R. Martin, and George R.R. Martin starts telling them about all the Game of Thrones. Right, he starts telling them about all the new plots of Game of Thrones, and there's a lot of floppy wieners involved, and they stay because he said he ordered pizzas. And every few scenes, they'll be like, where's the pizzas? And he'll be like, the pizzas are coming. And then Jon Snow with his big floppy wiener. Anyway, Joe Harris is those pizzas. And they're not going to come for a long time because he's recovering from ankle surgery.
That was the most obscure reference that I don't think I would say 0.1% of people on earth would have any remote idea of what you're talking about.
Yeah, but they were waiting for pizzas. That's the general concept.
Okay.
All right, you brought up that Timberwolves loss. Let's get into it. 136-125.
The Nets lost.
The Nets lost. This was a Brooklyn Nets loss. Bad game for James Harden. Really bad shooting from the field. He looked a step slow. And what I hated about this loss is they blamed it on the refs. They kind of said the reason that James Harden didn't have a great game, and Nash sort of alluded to this. He called James Harden the poster boy for the refs not calling these fouls. I don't know, man. I saw a few plays where
outplayed.
And by the way, Harden was 4 of 13 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. He finished with 13 points. They don't have his free throws up here. I think he went to the line a few times. But that's 13 points, and the Nets scored 125 is just embarrassing if you're James Harden. And then the other side of this, you mentioned it, no defense was played in this game by the Brooklyn Nets.
But that was 2 times in a row. There's no defense played against the Spurs either. If you watch both games, and we'll get to the Spurs in a couple games, the middle of the floor is always open. We overprotect the perimeter. We spread out. There's no help defense. Anthony Edwards, who's this guy Noel, who's nice?
I think it's Norvell. I don't think it's Noel. Yeah, I'll show you.
Jared Norvell, is that his name?
Where is he? Noel. Oh, you're right.
It is Noel.
What's his Noel?
Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel. Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, former Net. I actually do still have some fond memories.
D'Lo finished with 23 and 10. Yep.
They were getting anything they wanted in the lane. They were driving on us through 3 people, and no one was closing. It almost seemed like every single time the Timberwolves drove, all the Nets players were looking at each other, seeing who else was going to step up and guard. It was embarrassing. Listen, the T-Wolves have improved over the last couple of years. They're still around, a 500 team? What's the record? Yeah, 23 and 23. So I don't understand. when we've had such decent back-to-back defensive games the last few weeks, these last 2 games, and it can't just be attributed to Durant because he's missed the past few weeks, our defense is nowhere to be found. Maybe that's why Nash keeps trying to throw in Javon Carter. He's the only guy who seems to be helping on defense, doing face-to-face man, solid off ball. Everyone else, Harden's looking around for dear life. Kyrie Irving, I know I'm jumping games here, didn't even guard DeJounte Murray, who's arguably an all-star this year for the San Antonio Spurs. So I was watching 2 back-to-back games, more so in the T-Wolves game because we beat the Spurs, where no one was closing out, no one was helping on D. Everything the T-Wolves got was easy, that it was almost hard to watch. And it wasn't a bad offensive game for us.
A lot of fouls for the Brooklyn Nets. The Timberwolves went to the line 31 times. They were 26 of 31. So what happens is when you play bad defense, you tend to foul teams. When you foul teams, they get in the bonus fairly quickly. So the Timberwolves were in the bonus with like 7 minutes left in the second quarter. And if that's the case, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you already lost. Because now every single ticky-tack foul you get, that's 2 free throws for them. We had no answer for anybody. I mean, I'm going to go through the box score real quick because everybody on the Timberwolves went off.
I mean, Okogie, McDaniels is nice.
Russell, as I mentioned earlier, 23 points, 10 assists. Karl Anthony Towns had 23 points. We'll get to Karl Anthony Towns taking over this game. And Steve Nash basically saying, hey, Kat, why don't you go win this game for the Timberwolves?
I hate Karl Anthony Towns.
Anthony Davis had 25 points. He did leave with a significant looking injury at the end. He limped off the court with his he didn't limp off.
Not Davis.
Anthony Edwards. I'm sorry. Anthony Edwards. His teammates and the coaching staff helped him walk off. That was kind of scary to see, but he had a great game, 25 points. McDaniels had 14 for the Timberwolves.
Vanderbilt was decent.
Taurean Prince plays the Brooklyn Nets. You know what he does? 6 of 6 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3 for 15 points. The man did not miss a shot.
And I used to pray
minutes.
he wouldn't shoot in Brooklyn. Every time he shot, I cringed.
And Nick brought up Noel, 16 points, 6 of 9 from the field. So the Timberwolves got whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Part of that is these young guys for the Nets. A few games ago, it was Day'Ron Sharpe who got in foul trouble. This game, it was Kessler Edwards. Edwards picked up a ton of fouls in that first half. I think he had 4 or 5 fouls going into halftime. LaMarcus Aldridge fouled out of this game, and we got a bad game from LaMarcus Aldridge. He was only 3 of 8 from the field, 6 points. We're not used to him missing a lot of mid-range shots, and that gets this team going, those mid-range shots. So before we get to the really bad in the fourth quarter, I want to praise Kyrie. He was the only net, and Patty Mills. They both showed up in this one. 30 for Kyrie on 11 of 20 from the field, 21 points for Patty Mills, 8 of 15. He was 5 of 10 from 3. They were both aggressive in this game. It seems like Irving is allowing James Harden to run the offense for the majority of the game. And then in certain spurts, Irving takes over. And it's weird because there's not a ton of continuity to it. But
when he does it, it looks pretty.
It looks awesome. Like when Irvin's like, when they give Irvin a few possessions, you know he's going to hit 2 or 3 in a row. It's just a matter of when is his heat check, and then boom, we go back to Harden. So here's where the Nets lost the game, in my opinion. Yes, they allowed over 30 points in every single quarter, but I want to say with 5 minutes left in the fourth, and if you were on Nets Twitter, I think everyone agreed with my sentiment.
Wow.
Steve Nash decides to go small. So he takes out Day'Ron Sharpe, who only has 3 fouls at this point. He can still play. He puts in James Johnson at the 5. Now, James Johnson is an oversized wing. He's tall enough to the point where you can put him on a stretch 4, but he can't cover a 5. He can't, especially a 5 as skilled as and talented as Karl Anthony Towns. So what proceeded to happen was Karl Anthony Towns gets the ball, draws a foul. James Johnson fouls him. Gets the ball again, sticks a 3 in Johnson's face. Gets the ball, another possession, wide open kick out to the corner, 3 for the Timberwolves. Next possession is an and 1 layup for Karl Anthony Towns. He was responsible for 9 straight points.
Good math.
The second Steve Nash put in James Johnson, that's what happened. It was a 6-point game. The Timberwolves blew it open. I want to support Steve Nash. I want to say that he's a good coach, but there are moments like this. You got to chalk it up to a learning experience. Why you think James Johnson is a player that can not only guard Karl Anthony Towns, but he's not a floor spacer. He's not that much better of a 3-point shooter than Day'Ron Sharpe, in my opinion. Not that I think Sharpe's going to jack him up, but when James Johnson shoots a 3, Nick, how confident are you that's going in?
Not very. I'll give James Johnson some credit. He's a veteran leader. He makes the right passes. He did have some nice dump offs underneath. Listen, yes, that's a good point. And apparently all of Nets community backed you up on that. So
bro, I
congrats for that.
got like 25 favorites for my tweet, like 1,000 interactions. It was a good tweet.
That's fine. Probably the best night of your life. The point is, it was a lot. There was a lot more to
second
that
best night of my life. The first was when you were born. Go on.
There was a lot more to that game. I mean, we out turnovered them by 17-9.
Yeah.
Did you watch Harden? He had like 3 plays where he just lost the ball and it was an easy bucket. I mean, I don't know the exact number statistically of how many turnovers are turned into points overall, but you could see obviously turnover. You could go to an individual game and see how many points were scored off of turnovers. They literally had like 3 in a row wide open fast break dunks on us because Harden couldn't hold on to the ball, or he tried to do a behind the back move that just lost it and it rolled over to half court and they scooped it up, and Anthony Edwards had a nice posterizing dunk. So like, yes, I don't believe Nash made the right call, but we were already at that point down 8-10. Maybe Nash was just kind of throwing a dart against a
we
wall.
We were down 6 when he put James Johnson in. There was 5 to 6 minutes left, and we were down 6. You're not going to tell me that if we keep Day'Ron Sharp in, Karl Anthony Towns doesn't attribute for 9 straight points?
Who do you think Day'Ron Sharp is?
He's not James Johnson. He's an actual center.
Yes, he's a better big than
also,
James Johnson.
I want to point out that those 2 plays in a row, essentially, where Taurean Prince double dribbled, the refs didn't call it, ended up in a Timberwolves 3, and then the very next possession for the T-Wolves, they're about to turn it over. They throw it in the backcourt, and it hits a referee, stays in bounds. The T-Wolves get another 3-pointer off of that. So this was a bad James Harden game. This was a bad defensive game. This was a bad coaching game. And it was a bad game in regards to getting calls from the refs.
It's also hard for us to complain about the refs when one of our assistant coaches touched the ball in that.
And that's kind of karma. That's how the NBA works. We got away with that call against the Wizards. We didn't get away with those opportunities against the Timberwolves. And speaking of Wizards, we're going to go all the way back to that game. It was on Wednesday night. This was a very close game.
It was a fun game.
Very
I
fun
gotta say,
game.
the Wizards have some guys. I mean, KCP, Brad Beal, of course, we love Dinwiddie, Kuzma. They're all just fun to watch. They're a cool young up and coming team.
So we were ahead most of this game. Actually, we had a 41-point second quarter. Harden looked okay in this one. No, this was a bad James Harden game. We won despite him.
You got to give love to Denny of the Israeli.
I'm sorry. Kyrie was on fire in this game. He had 30 points, 13 of 23, and then LaMarcus Aldridge could not miss. 11 of 15 from the field, 27 points off the bench in 32 minutes for LaMarcus Aldridge. Patty Mills chipped in 17. Day'Ron Sharp chipped in 14, and then James Harden had 18, 9, and 8 on 7 of 21 from the field. This game came down to the Wizards making a run in that fourth quarter. I don't know if they ever led. Maybe they led by 1 or 2, but the way this game ended, it was the Nets up 1 with the ball. Kyrie Irving misses a 3. Nets get the rebound. James Harden gets the ball. Clock's winding down. The shot clock's winding down. I think the Wizards were going to get the ball back with 9 or 10 seconds left anyway. So Harden drives, goes up for the layup, blocked by, I believe it was Naz Reid who blocked him. He had a pretty good game, Reid. Wait, no.
You're thinking of the T-Wolves.
Of the T-Wolves.
Yeah.
Harrell. I'm sorry. Harrell blocked him.
Much as Harrell.
And Harrell had a very nice game for the T-Wolves, 14 points for him. So he blocks Harden. Wizards get the ball back, 2 chances. Kuzma gets a chance from 3, misses, and then wouldn't you know it, former Brooklyn Nets Spencer Dinwiddie with a shot to beat the Brooklyn Nets in Washington. He misses, no good. The Nets hold on for a 1-point victory.
I love Dinwiddie, but he's shooting sub 40% this year. He's kind of hucking and chucking and not hitting as much. I honestly, at this point, trust Kuzma in the clutch, given the big shots he's hit this season. So, listen, everyone's going to point out in this game that our assistant coach, with like 6 minutes left, touched the ball.
David Vanterpool.
You got fined $10K. He touched a ball that I think Kuzma passed to the corner.
No. Someone passed it to Kuzma. Yeah.
And he got a hand on it, and it ended up resulting in a turnover.
Bad look, by the way. Bad look if you're Vanderpool. I mean, the refs didn't call it.
They didn't call it, but come on. Freaking Wizards had 3 chances with 45 seconds left to beat us, and your 3 best players couldn't hit 1 shot. I don't feel bad for you.
No,
right?
It was Kuzma, Beal,
and Dinwiddie, who all had an opportunity. This is a fun game. Another 30-point Kyrie Irving performance. I mean, he looks like he hasn't missed a beat. He just comes in and he takes over offensively.
Did you see what he said after the Timberwolves game?
No.
He said he thinks he's slowly crawling into his prime.
That's pretty sick.
That's pretty sick.
I mean, he's hitting shots everywhere. And this is our second game in a row if we include this T-Wolves game, shooting over 50%. We shot 53% against the Wizards, and then we
got the Spurs in between, so it's not going to be in a row.
The second game we're talking about in a row,
Right.
where we're shooting a great percentage. Obviously, the T-Wolves outshot us, but a great shooting night overall from the team, 48% against the Spurs that we're about to get to. So we've been great offensively, but the thing is we're letting up too many points on defense. So like a team like the Wizards, who are better than they've been in previous years, and granted we're missing Harris and Durant, had a chance to beat us. They shouldn't. The T-Wolves, again, like I said, a slightly above average team this year. They shouldn't be beating us. They shouldn't be putting up that many points. So it almost feels like, besides criticizing Harden and somewhat Nash, it all keeps seeming to coming back to our defense and inability to stop teams from scoring, in my opinion.
And here has been the tough thing with James Harden, right? We talked about his poor performance against the Timberwolves. This was not a great game for him either. 18 points in nearly 40 minutes. He did not hit a three-point shot in this one. And then you mix in that, but then you have a game like the Spurs game we're about to get to where Harden goes off. So it's tough. You don't know on a nightly basis which James Harden you're going to get. Are you going to get the James Harden that can't hit from the field, that looks a step slow, that's getting stuffed at the rim, that's not getting the foul calls? Or are you going to get the masterful James Harden who has the ball on a string, who finds wide open guys, and is able to score 37 in his sleep?
I think it depends if you went to the strip club the night before or not.
Is that a James Harden goes to strip club jokes? Because that was very not subtle.
He likes to party.
Who doesn't like to party? Just with your friends and family.
Speaking of cold streaks, have you seen Steph Curry?
Yeah, but they won yesterday. See, and that's the other thing. The Warriors are so good. I was thinking about this. They can win on nights where Curry's bad. They can take it, despite cold nights from Steph Curry. Ironically, the Nets.
The Warriors also have the best defense in the league.
No, I understand. That's what I'm saying. The Warriors' identity is that they're a defensive juggernaut with a bunch of guys on offense who can score the ball. And Steph Curry doesn't need the ball in his hands to be great. When I watch the Nets play, James Harden has the ball in his hands so often. When he's elite, you love it because it's automatic points pretty much every possession. When he's struggling like he did against the Timberwolves, like he did against the Wizards, he takes the intensity out of so many possessions because all the other Nets players are watching him dribble, pick, roll to the rim, shot, whatever. It's harder to get back on defense. And I think that gives teams an edge when we're not wasting these possessions, but it's harder for the Nets to have that, effort, desire to want to play D and want to crash the boards when Harden is struggling like he has been.
Yeah.
And my point is it's harder for the Nets to win when Harden is struggling because he has the ball in his hands so often.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Of course. I just want to give a quick update on Joe Harris that came out yesterday, January 23rd at 4:30 from Brian Lewis, basically saying he's been dealing with some irritation as he works his way back. They did not expect it to be this bad. He's been doing a bit of a tug of war between making progress and then having more irritation. It's really a process that's been tricky, says Coach Steve Nash. Harris has been out since November 14th. And I think they said it would be about 6 to 8 weeks. Now we're approaching kind of 8 to 9 weeks, and he still isn't even allowed to practice. So just wanted to give a quick update on our boy Joe Harris. Wish him a speedy recovery. You'd think the best doctors in the world working for like billion-dollar organizations would be able to give us a little bit better of a timetable and do a better job than, my PT that still won't let me jump on my Achilles. So let's hope for the best.
Is there any way that we can send Joe Harris to the Netaverse quickly and they can fix this this issue he has?
No.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on to the final game this week we haven't talked about. It was actually the one win in the last 3 games. I'm sorry, the second win because I keep forgetting we won that Wizards game. It felt like a loss. It was so close. We beat the Spurs on Friday, 117-102. This was a huge night for Patty Mills and LaMarcus Aldridge. Not necessarily performance-wise, I don't think they had. Could you read their stats to me?
Aldridge had 16 and 7.
So Aldridge had a nice night. Mills had a pretty quiet
Mills
night.
is okay, 9 and 4.
But this was a night where we got elite James Harden. We had the James Harden from last year, 37 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds, 13 of 24 from the field, 4 of 8. And you tack on the fact that we got a 24-point burger from Kyrie Irving in 35 minutes. You don't need much other production. You just don't. That's enough for me. Okay.
But that's also enough against a pretty lowly Spurs team. Like
Yes.
I feel like we played pretty similarly against the Spurs and the T-Wolves, honestly. It's just the T-Wolves had a lot more weapons on offense that we couldn't stop. I mean, look
disagree.
At this Spurs team.
I think the Spurs and the T-Wolves are very similar organizations.
Are you kidding? Compare the best players on the Spurs to the best players on the T-Wolves. DeJounte Murray, great player. I'd still rather have D'Angelo Russell, KAT, and arguably Anthony Edwards at this point just because of the franchise potential. And then who after that is even relevant? I don't want Derek White. I don't want Keldon Johnson. I don't want Bates Diop. Doug McDermott, great dude. Don't want him. Pirtle, don't want him. So you're telling me on a T-Wolves team that has a pretty dope trio, and then they're building players like Jalen Noel, was it Josh McDaniels? Is that his name? These athletic players, like, how can you tell me the Spurs are even comparable?
I don't think it's Josh McDaniels. I think you're thinking of another guy. It's Jaden McDaniels.
Okay, Jaden McDaniels.
You were thinking of Josh McRoberts.
No,
who was an old player from Duke.
I was thinking of Dylan McDermott and Dermot Mulroney. No, I think that's a crazy take to say the Spurs are similar. I mean, also look at their records. The Spurs are 17-29. The T-Wolves are 23-23. So
I'm humbled. I'll give you that argument. But I think the Spurs are an up-and-coming team with enough young talent that they give the Nets a run for their money every time those two teams play. So my point being,
and they have the best coach in NBA history.
If you had gotten a game like this against the Timberwolves from Harden, it might have been a different story. But this was a great homecoming for Patty Mills and LaMarcus Aldridge in terms of just getting the win. There was a nice embrace that they both had with Pop before the game. And then when it got down to it, the Nets just flexed their muscles in this one, and they pretty much dominated for the majority of this game.
There was one downside to me, besides just, again, middle of the court, open. DeJounte Murray had 25, 12, and 10. Triple-double. He's been putting up great numbers all the year. So wasn't like an anomaly that he only crushed it against us. But he was getting, like, they'd set a high pick on the middle perimeter, and he would just have to take one step. We'd get fooled by the in-out 1-2 with the big man. We'd get two guys hovering over to probably Pirtle most of the time, or whoever's setting that top screen.
Pirtle.
Who stuffed the shit out of Day'Ron Sharpe.
He did, yeah.
But DeJounte Murray was getting these wide open elbow jumpers, top of the key. He was just kind of doing these little floaters in the paint. Again, a big problem with the middle and down near the paint, leaving it wide open. Well, and I'll also say the announcers made a good point in this game. Kyrie Irving does not know the DeJounte Murray of 2022 or 2021. He hasn't played him in a long time. He was giving him 3 feet on 3-pointers, and Murray was crushing him. And you hear the announcers saying, like, Does Irving know who he's guarding? This isn't just a random young guy on this kind of rebuild Spurs team. So again, defensive mistakes. We won by 15, and I'll literally say it's just because we have superior talent to the Spurs team. But again, I know we disagreed on this. I'm going to compare it to the T-Wolves. Did well on offense because they had more talent. They were able to score more, be more efficient. It didn't matter how great our offense was.
Nick, you consider yourself a pretty intelligent fella. Am I right?
Sure.
Who do the Nets not have right now on their roster?
Yeah, KD.
No, who else?
JH.
Who's a rim protector who has not played these last few games?
Nicky Claxton.
Nicky Claxton. They don't have one of their best rim protectors.
Well, according to you, Day'Ron Sharpe would have won the game.
Day'Ron Sharpe's good enough. He's good enough, but he's a young raw talent. LaMarcus Aldridge, when he comes in there, don't get me wrong, he is the most deadly big man from mid-range in the game.
According to Karl Anthony Towns is the best shooting big man ever.
I mean, he's pretty good.
Hottest take of all time.
He's pretty good.
Dirk was like, all right.
No, but as far as in terms of efficiency, I think Aldridge literally has the highest rated mid-range shot right now out of every big man. He is not a rim protector at this point in his career. He is very tough on defense. So once you get, I'm not as worried about that as you are. I think once you get Claxton back, that rim protection will sort of, it'll come to form a little bit, and the Nets will be able to protect the paint slightly better than they have. But yeah, the Nets perimeter defense with Harden and Curry, as great as those guys are on offense, more Irving consistently than Harden recently, defensively, they both have their flaws, and they both sort of miss assignments on occasion. In that Wizards game, Kuzma hit a huge 3, and Harden was just nowhere to be. Like, he kind of let Kuzma go in the corner and be wide open, essentially. It was a huge shot that I think put the Wizards up 1 or tied the game. But no, I think that the Nets do have a problem protecting the paint. I think that'll get better when they get Clax back. And that sort of brings me to this next point. the Nets and Paul Millsap apparently, have decided to part ways. Millsap's going to try to find an opportunity elsewhere. I think the Nets are going to try to trade him by the deadline. What did you think about that news? Were you surprised, shocked? Millsap was never really able to find a role with this Brooklyn Nets team. Despite the fact that they do have issues at the 4 and the 5, they never really wanted to give Millsap a legitimate chance.
This was weird to me. Like, okay, I'm looking at, he averaged 11 minutes a game, 3 points a game, 37% from the field. Pretty shitty numbers compared to his career, obviously, having some fantastic years on the Nuggets. And then where was he before that?
I don't remember. He's been on the Nuggets forever.
Was on the Nuggets?
Oh, Utah. Was he in Utah for a second?
Yeah, exactly. He was on Utah as well. So I'm a little confused by some of the stuff he said as well. He was on the Nuggets for 4 years, then Atlanta for 4 years, and he was on Utah for the first 7 of his career. Millsap's old. I was under the impression Millsap was accepting a small role on this Nets team because he wanted to go in pursuit of a championship.
Yes.
So he comes here, he gets 11 minutes per game. Listen, that's not a great amount of time for anybody who thinks they're good enough to be a scorer, to be an integral part of a winning team. 11 minutes is pretty decent given this stacked Nets roster. And Millsap looked a step slow. He was shooting it pretty underwhelmingly at 37%. His defense isn't what it used to be. So what did he say? He said something like, I knew the first day of practice when I showed up and Durant compared me to Christian Feliciano, that it wasn't a good fit, which is kind of a funny roast on Durant's part.
That's a very funny roast.
But I don't know. Millsap said he wants to go somewhere until he plays a bigger part on the team. So Millsap would rather go somewhere, get more minutes on a theoretical shitty team, because where's he going to go? Where's he going to get more minutes? Not a better team than the Nets. So say he jumps to, again, it's all hypothetical, a Pistons team where he's getting 30 minutes a game because the Pistons are so absolutely horrendous. You have no shot of being on a winning team or a championship contention team. So confused by the move because I thought he was just kind of doing like a James Johnson, even an Aldridge move. Now, obviously, Aldridge is a huge contributor, but he obviously came to the Nets in pursuit of a championship given the Spurs rebuild. So why is Millsap complaining about not getting time and wanting to be a bigger factor when he's, 36 and should probably just be trying to jump on a stacked team and win?
Here's my whole thing with this. I never liked the Millsap signing. I never thought his game really fit with what the Nets needed. The Nets need one of two things. They either need a presence down low, sort of like what Day'Ron Sharpe and Nick Claxton do for them right now. And obviously Sharpe was the surprise there, and no one really knew if Claxton could consistently be that presence down low. They also need, LaMarcus Aldridge is great, don't get me wrong, but they need a stretch four. They need someone who can come in, can hit the open three, and can bang, and is quick and is athletic.
More bang bros.
Paul Millsap is none of those things. Paul Millsap is a very slow-paced player, doesn't have a great outside shot, isn't really I'm going to bang for this rebound and that. I mean, he gets a few rebounds, but he's not covering five. He's not a five. He's not really a guy you should play at the center position. And I think what Sean Marks did, Nick, is Sean Marks said, I'm going to go into this season with Nick Claxton, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, Day'Ron Sharpe, Paul Millsap. These guys are all going to compete. And Kevin Durant's technically, he plays the four a lot. These guys are all going to be my big men, and I'm going to see what makes the most sense. Now, Blake has been really up and down, but he was here last year, and you kind of trust what he gave you last year, even though he's underperformed this year. Aldridge, like you said, has been great. Claxton and Sharpe have so much potential. Unfortunately, Millsap was always the odd man out. And that is why it just never made sense when they brought him in. I never thought he was going to play a lot of minutes. And when I saw Nets Twitter, he should have played more, this and that. Who's he going to play over? Why would he play over Blake Griffin? He doesn't give you that toughness. He's not diving on the floor for loose balls that Griffin gives you. He's not as good of a mid-range shooter as Aldridge. He doesn't do the little things anymore that Sharpe and Claxton can do. So it just never made sense to me. And when they announced they were parting ways with him, I said, good for him. He deserves to go somewhere where he can play more, because it was never going to be Brooklyn.
Just to give two updates, and this is just crazy to me because I don't think he's going to get that many minutes on either one of these teams. The DeWindy City report suggests Chicago Bulls could acquire Paul Millsap.
Okay.
And Heavy says Warriors may trade for four-time All-Star Paul Millsap. So why are arguably the best two teams in their conferences trying to get Paul Millsap when Paul Millsap wants to be an integral part of if he wants more minutes?
Because maybe they have a role for him. The Nets don't have a role for him. His game doesn't mesh with any of the things we do. He's actually a player who needs the ball in his hands a lot.
I mean, listen,
and we don't want to give him the ball.
Anybody could see the Warriors. Anybody could mesh with the Warriors because
Yes.
the Warriors are just an unbelievably selfish, chemistry-focused, off-ball movement team.
Could Timothy Luwawu
Who's he going to
Cabarrot
replace
mesh
on the
with
Bulls? The
Warriors?
Bulls have a
The answer is
nice
yes.
roster. I don't think he fits in with that Bulls team whatsoever. But I could see him being a part of the Warriors with Wiseman out and them having a kind of a heavy rotation right now. But I don't know, man. I wonder what Millsap's expectations are for jumping on a team, because if I'm a coach of any organization, especially Nets, Warriors, Bulls, who are all championship contenders, I don't want the ball in Millsap's hands that much as a 36-year-old shooting sub 40% at this point in his career. All respect to Millsap and his pretty well, reputable career.
If you want to let Millsap sort of be a co-anchor in your second unit, that's what makes sense to me. But the Nets were never going to allow him to do that, which is why his minutes just were sporadic and he never worked here.
I get it. All right, move on from Paul Millsap.
A few more segments before we round out the pod. This is a real quick one. Saw the Washington Wizards might be moving Spencer Dinwiddie before the trade deadline.
He's not a fit.
Yeah, you don't think the Nets should bring him back?
Oh, for the Nets.
For the
I
Nets.
was saying for the Wizards.
No, bring back Dinwiddie for the Nets.
I'd be cool if Dinwiddie coming back.
Hell yeah, yo. By the way, he had a bad game against us the other day. He was like
he
11
is such
points.
a better Kessler Edwards.
No, I would love Spencer Dinwiddie on this team. I think that the Nets should trade Javon Carter and maybe James Johnson and bring back Spencer Dinwiddie.
I support it.
That's extremely ridiculous, but anything. Sean Marks is a genius, and in Sean Marks I trust. All right. Real fast before we get to this Lakers Nuggets prediction, I just wanted to shout out Kessler Edwards. I think that Edwards has been such a delight for the Brooklyn Nets. He's a 6'9", small forward / power forward hybrid who can shoot the ball. He can shoot the three. He's a great defender. He got in foul trouble against the Timberwolves. He'll get better at that. But he is a player that the Nets desperately need on this roster, because without Joe Harris, it is just Patty Mills who is a knockdown three-point shooter. And then everybody else is a little bit, you don't know what you're going to get. Bruce Brown, DeAndre Bembry, Javon Carter, these guys are not great three-point shooters. They're just not. So, and Aldridge is okay, but outside of the people I just named, there's no one else on this team that really takes threes. Not talking about Harden and Kyrie. You know what they're going to give you from the field. And Kevin Durant, of course. But I think that Edwards has been such a nice pickup for the Nets. He was a great draft pick by Sean Marks. And in my opinion, I put out a poll a week or two ago, who is the best rookie so far? Kessler Edwards won by a large margin.
On the Nets.
Okay. Day'Ron Sharpe was second. Cam Thomas was third, and David Duke Jr. was fourth.
Really? I would have expected Cam Thomas to be above.
No. Sharpe's been good.
Sharpe.
Sharpe had 10 rebounds the other day, I think, against the Spurs.
Yeah.
All right. Lakers Nuggets prediction. The Nets play the Lakers Tuesday at home. So if you're listening Tuesday, that's today. And then they play the Nuggets Wednesday at home. Give me your predictions for those two games.
Not super optimistic about Tuesday, given the fact that Anthony Davis was just upgraded to probable. So the Lakers gain AD and we lose Kyrie because we're back home. So I'm going to still take a Nets prediction because I don't think we ever take losing predictions. So it's going to be a squeaker down to the wire. And Kessler Edwards hits a game-winning floater over AD 114 to 107. That wouldn't be a game winner. 114 to 113.
What about the Nuggets game?
When's that? Sunday?
No, that's Wednesday. It's a back-to-back.
Oh, shit. Nah. Yeah, we're going to win that one too. Kessler Edwards, buzzer beater over Nikola Jokic, 124 to 123.
Yeah, you're a delight to podcast with. I think the Nets will go one-on-one in this homestand.
Let's make a deal. If Kessler Edwards hits a game winner in one of those shots, you have to do the next podcast shirtless.
Done. Deal. Kessler Edwards game winner. I'm doing the pod shirtless. I think the Nets split. I think they'll maybe beat the Lakers, but they'll lose to the Nuggets or vice versa. I don't think there's a way that the Nets will lose back-to-back games at home. Although they have, I don't think that they will. I think that Harden tends to show up in these games against teams with MVP-type players like LeBron James, like Nikola Jokic. I think that the Nets will at least take one, but it's going to be tough to take two, especially given the back-to-back. All right. And then finally, Nick, right before we end this show, I want to give a shout out to Chris Mulholland. Chris is a writer for Nets Daily. If you don't follow him on Twitter, give him a follow. He's verified. Me and Chris have been talking for a few months about our love for pizza in New Jersey, and we organized a pizza crawl this past Saturday. We went to 3 places. The first was Rasco's in Edgewater, New Jersey. We had the plain slice there. The second was Pizza Side in Cliffside Park. If you like Detroit-style pizza, Pizza Side has delicious Detroit-style pizza, but we were doing sort of a plain pizza slice crawl, so we had the margarita there. Even though the margarita is not plain, I think it's pretty damn close to plain. And then that was in Cliffside Park. And then the third place we went to was Urban Tomato in Palisades Park. Dave Portnoy gave it an 8.1. We got their plain slice as well. So if you're interested in seeing how we scored those 3 places, check out our Twitter pages, subscribe to our YouTube, and give us all the likes and follows in the world, and you can see how we graded each place.
Oh yeah, dude. Good for you guys.
It was awesome. And Chris is a great kid. We had a blast. I think he's one of the better guys who cover the Nets out there. He's at every press conference. He live tweets the game. I don't want to, toot his horn too much, but he was the delight to get pizza with. And I think I've said the word delight 4 times on this podcast now.
Yeah, we should probably close after that.
All right, Nick. I guess thank you for coming here and doing the podcast live with me. As always, 1, 2, 3. Catch you on the fireside.
They shouldn't hear us say 1, 2, 3. You should do that mouth it or something. Like 1, 2, or at least 5, 6, 7, 8.
You ruined it.